First, thanks to your pastor. Y'all are blessed to have a godly, bold pastor. There are too many congregations and churches in our country that don't have a bold pastor to stand up for the things that were right, that are in the scriptures, but to take a stand, because if our country is not going to hear the truth coming from the pulpit, where do we expect them to hear the truth? So I thank you for the invitation. Also, when somebody is given, especially a Sunday morning pulpit, this is like somebody who labored over restoring a car for decades. And then once the car is finished and it is perfect and it is polished and it is correct, then to just toss the keys to somebody else and say, take it for a ride. So I really feel honored to have this invitation. We had a great time with your kids yesterday. In fact, at least for the next 45 minutes, your children know more about how to defend God's preborn in the womb than you do. So we're going to catch you up to the knowledge that your kids already have. And then we're going to spend some time in the Sunday school session going over some of the things that we went over yesterday. The practice that I took over in Pensacola in 1999, after I finished my OBGYN residency at the University of Florida, was the largest provider of abortions in the whole Florida panhandle. We took over the practice. We had him sign a non-compete where he could not practice any type of medicine for the next 2 years. He retired. He moved back to Sweden. We took over the practice, and I thought, okay, it's time to start my business, time to start a practice, delivering babies and doing surgery. But it was on a Sunday like this. It was on a Sunday right after church that I went over to the practice for the first time. And I had a key. I had seen the downstairs where the waiting room was and all the office, the exam rooms, my office, but I had never gone upstairs. And for the first time, I went upstairs. Upstairs was where the surgical suite was. And I couldn't help but think, as I was walking up those gray carpeted stairs, how many moms in the Pensacola and the Panhandle region were pregnant, had had an ultrasound, saw that baby on the inside, walked up those very stairs, made a left turn at the top of the stairs, and then they spent about 20, 30 minutes up there, and then they walked down that same set of stairs without that baby on the inside. This is on the same street as Pensacola Christian College. There are churches with 1,000 members here, 1,000 members there. So just really felt a calling. We did a presentation at my church. It's like, this is what's been going on for decades here in Pensacola. And that really opened up the door towards a ministry. So you always have to be listening to the Holy Spirit as far as, what are you telling me to do? Because we can all have a way that we can serve the kingdom, because this is the time to do kingdom service. We have a short amount of time here on earth. Maybe you get 70, 80, 90 years, and in return, you get to spend eternity in the presence of our Lord. And we're all going to look back and say, what did I do to serve the kingdom in that short time we were here? So we all have areas of expertise and training that we can say, this is what I do for a vocation. How can I turn this into kingdom service? So this is where God led Les and I. And so we, still have a private practice. I'm still delivering about 25 babies a month. Delivered 5 on Monday. The Monday before that, we delivered 6, and we stay busy. But this is our passion, and that's what keeps us going. But we're going to talk today about patients' rights. Anybody here ever been a patient? Yeah, y'all get sick, especially after all this COVID stuff. We recognize that we're all patients, but patients definitely have rights. And it is a real focus on the young people now, especially my rights for this, my rights for that. And well, I have this right. Well, I was at the University of Florida College of Medicine recently. It was set up to be a debate, myself against a former abortionist, but then 10 days before, he bailed. And he said, I'm not gonna do it. I don't know why. But then they asked, well, would you like to come by yourself? And I'm like, a debate with just one person? Come on. How can I lose, So, but we were there with the students, and the questions we asked them were a couple. We asked them, if I have a patient in my office that needs a blood transfusion or they will die, but they were not born in the United States, do I have a moral and legal obligation to get this patient that was not born in the United States, do I have a moral obligation to get them a blood transfusion? And all the little, heads filled with mush are kind of bouncing up and down. I said, all right, say I have a patient in my office, right in my office, that needs laser vascular surgery, or they're going to die, but they also were not born in the United States. Do I have an obligation to provide them access to health care? And they're all like, yeah. I said, okay, it's getting more expensive now. If I have a patient in my office that needs open heart surgery, and if they don't get this open heart surgery, they will die in the next 2 weeks. But they were not born in the United States. Do I have a moral and legal obligation to provide them access to this expensive open heart surgery, even though they weren't born in the United States? All the heads are nodding now. And a guy in the back says, Dr. Lile, we've been taught here at the University of Florida College of Medicine that a patient is a person is entitled to respect and bodily integrity. And it doesn't matter if this patient was born in the United States. That patient needs care and they deserve care. I said, I agree with you. I was taught the same thing when I was here. You know, that and prima non nocere, first of all, do no harm, was the first Latin phrase we all learned. The only detail I left out when I said they were not born in the United States, they were not born in the United States yet. And that's the key. And all the jaws dropped. I said, yeah, we are now doing blood transfusions to babies in the womb. We are doing laser vascular surgery. We are doing open heart surgery on babies and then putting them back on the inside and saying, I'll see you in 10 weeks and we'll deliver you. If they are a patient, they are a person, no matter how small. This is an election year. We saw the signs driving over here. People are running for everything. Ask them 2 questions. Are you an advocate for patients' rights? Of course, what are they going to say? Well, yes, I am an advocate for patients' rights. And then you say, are you an advocate for patients' rights when the patient was not born in the United States? Why, yes, I'm an advocate for patients that were not born in the United States. Then help me defend my patients that are not born in the United States yet. And that is the real difference, because there are now centers from coast to coast that are treating the preborn as patients. And you're going to hear me use that term, preborn. And I want you to remember that term, because words matter when it comes. Words matter. We didn't think you had to define boy and girl anymore, man and woman, but we have to define man and woman now. Preborn. Why do I use the term preborn as opposed to unborn? Unborn refers to that baby at this moment, and right there that baby is unborn. Preborn. What's the difference? Preborn means this baby is preborn. The normal expectation is that that baby is going to be born. Before you sent who has a child here? Anybody have a child? Yeah, you've got kids. Before you sent them to school, where did they go before school? Preschool. Who sent their child to unschool? Nobody went to unschool. Before you watch the ball game, do you look forward to the ungame show? No. You watch the pregame show. Pre-game show because the normal expectation is that there's going to be a game. Preschool because the normal expectation is that they're going to go to school. Preborn because the normal, natural expectation is that they are going to be born. Words matter. Focus on the family. After we went through this with them, they've changed all of their products. That they don't use the term unborn anymore. They use the term preborn because that is really what they are. So when the students recognize that patients have rights, we're going to go through some of the ways that we treat the preborn as patients, because a patient is a person, no matter how small, kind of like Horton Hears a Who with Dr. Seuss. So we're going to go through. And one of the students said, you said you're doing blood transfusions to the babies in the hospital that are in the womb? I said, yeah, we do it routinely. We have done blood transfusions to babies in the womb at my hospital as early as 18 weeks gestation. They can't start to survive until 23 or 24 weeks, but we are doing blood transfusions. But here's the key. Why do you need to do a blood transfusion? We do blood transfusions because from the moment of conception, the baby and the mother are 2 totally different people. In fact, half the time, it's a different gender. So how can a woman say, it's my body, it's my choice, if 1 billion cells at 10 weeks for that baby are all XY chromosome little boy, while every cell in her body is XX chromosome? But a lot of times, not only do they have different genders, moms and babies can have different blood types because the mom's blood and the baby's blood don't mix together. And what happens is moms can develop antibodies against the baby's blood type. And the first visit, we do a lot of blood work, and one of the blood tests that we do is an antibody screen to see, does mom have antibodies against other types of blood? And a lot of times the mom will have an antibody. That antibody can cross the placenta and start to attack the baby because the baby has a different blood type than the mom. the baby's blood count starts to drop. And if we don't give that baby a blood transfusion, that baby will go into heart failure and that baby will die in the womb. The only cure for this is to give the baby a blood transfusion. It's like, where do you get that special magic baby blood? It's not. Y'all ever get donated blood? Gone to the Red Cross, One Blood? Yeah, you have blood drives at church. You have blood drives at office. If you have O-negative blood, we could use your blood to save the life of a baby at 18 weeks gestation by giving that baby a blood transfusion. It's like, well, how do you give a baby a blood transfusion? Ultrasound. We can do amazing. It's the windows into the womb. We can take a needle, guide it through the skin of the mom, through the wall of the uterus. The baby sees this needle go by and go, what was that? And then we can guide it right into the umbilical cord, right into the vein, and we can give that baby a life-saving blood transfusion. Sometimes we have to do this every 3, 4, 5 weeks. Why? Because the mom still is attacking the baby's blood. If we can give a baby a life-saving blood transfusion, is that a patient? Yeah, there's no doubt it's a patient. But we're also doing laser vascular surgery on babies on the inside, where we can actually go in with a scope and we can do laser surgery of the placenta with twins, and we can save their lives. We're even putting medication inside of the fluid around the baby. Why? If you had a real high heart rate and you show up in the emergency room and your heart rate's 180, 200, and you're like, oh, my heart is just pounding, they would give you medication and bring your heart rate down. Same condition happens to babies on the inside. Sometimes we'll have babies on an ultrasound, their heart is beating 220, 240 beats a minute. It's going, and you can't survive if your heart is doing this. So how do we slow down the baby's heart rate? Do we just give medications to the mom? Well, if we gave the mom the medication, it's going to affect her too. So what do? We take liquid forms of the medication, inject it into the fluid around the baby, because that fluid is always recycling. Most of that fluid around the baby is actually baby urine, but it doesn't just keep getting more and more and more. How do we control that balance? Baby is swallowing that fluid on the inside. So if there's medication in that fluid, baby swallows that medication. We're giving baby a daily dose of medication right there in the amniotic fluid and bringing the baby's heart rate. If we can give baby a medication to control its heart rate, is that a patient? Yeah, that's a patient. And a patient is a person, no matter how small. I'm going to show you some video. This is from the Cleveland Clinic. And it is a first here in this country where we've been doing surgery on babies, but the part that I really want you to see is how not only did the surgery get done and save this baby's life, they gave this baby an IV. Why did they put an IV in this baby's arm? For pain management, hydration, and resuscitation. Just like if this baby was at a pediatric, hospital, and that baby had an anesthesia team, this baby had an anesthesia team, even though this baby is only 27 weeks along. They diagnosed this baby at about 23 weeks with a tumor in the heart. And this tumor is called a teratoma. And the heart's just a big pump. I mean, like a bicycle pump. And if somebody threw a big pecan or a walnut into the barrel of the bicycle pump, it's not going to pump real well. Well, this baby had a tumor that was about half the size of the heart on the inside. They couldn't just deliver the baby because the baby was really preterm. So they said, why don't we just remove this tumor on the inside? I'm going to walk you through this amazing procedure. And the procedure was removal. If you look up here and you can see a picture of the mom. This is the mom, this is the baby that's there on the inside. Now we're going to move this animation. So how did they do this surgery? Well, they gave mom an epidural, and there's the tumor right there. Look how huge this tumor is compared to the size of the baby's heart. So mom has an epidural, they prep her belly, they make an incision right here in her skin. That incision then gets carried down, then they get down to the uterus, they make an incision like a little mini C-section. Now they have access to the baby. They brought out the right arm, and then they brought out the left arm, and we talked about an IV. They started an IV in that baby's hand for pain management and hydration. Then they made an incision in the baby's chest, removed this tumor from the baby's heart, closed the incision in the baby's chest. Almost immediately, as soon as they removed that tumor in the baby's heart, the heart started pumping normally because this big old pecan was no longer in the baby's heart. Then they tucked the arms in, they took the IV out, they closed the wall of the uterus, they closed the skin, and 10 weeks later they did a C-section and they delivered that baby. That baby is doing great. That is health care. If we can treat the preborn at 27 weeks and do open heart surgery, give them an IV and pain management, is that a patient? Yeah. And a patient is a person, no matter how small. And if they are a person, they are protected. when it comes to the details, this is healthcare. When you see people holding signs and chanting around saying abortion is healthcare, no. When you are taking the life of a baby there on the inside of the womb, that is not healthcare. When you have 12 doctors, nurses, anesthesiologists, surgical techs gathered together all to focus on doing open heart surgery. This is the actual surgical team that did that open heart surgery on the baby. And in fact, that little thing right there, that's a camera that was recording the whole thing. I'm going to show you some still pictures from that. That is healthcare. Anybody ever had an IV in their hand? Remember that tiny little thing for the IV entry point? When you're only 27 weeks along, that little teeny tiny thing looks huge. Look at that cute little thumbnail on that baby. And it's like, we're going to give that baby a high five. We're going to keep you pain-free during this surgery. We're going to do an open heart surgery. We're going to take the IV out. We're going to tuck you back in, and we'll have an appointment with you in 10 weeks, and we're going to let you come back out on the outside. The kid's going to come out and go, man, I've been here, done that. I've been on the outside before, you know? That's the actual surgery. That's health care. You can see the one hand with the IV. Here's the other hand coming out. This is right after they had done that open heart surgery on the baby, before they tucked that baby back on the inside. They're just getting ready to stitch the opening of the uterus. You know what that's called if you make an incision in the uterus there? Anybody know what that technical term is? That is a womb with a view. So we got a womb with a view right there. And then they're going to close the uterus there, and then they're going to tuck everything back in. The kid's giving one last high five before the baby gets put back on the inside, and that's Rylan. Yesterday, that baby turned 1 year, 1 month. That is a healthy, normal baby whose life was saved when he was 27 weeks gestation because a team of doctors and nurses said, this is my patient, this is a person, and we can treat him and we can heal him. If this young man shows up in my emergency room, do I ask where he was born? No. Doesn't matter what the issue is. I'm going to treat this young man. If this boy shows up in my emergency room, am I going to ask him, where were you born? No. I'm going to treat him whatever his need is. We're going to meet that need. Well, is this a patient? Yeah, this is a baby that got spina bifida corrective surgery. Anybody ever seen this picture? Got a lot of attention about 12 years ago. Baby had a defect in his spine, and they were going to repair the defect in the spine over at Vanderbilt University. And when they were getting ready to close the uterus back up again, he kind of also gave the traditional high five thanks to the docs, you know, as he's going back in. But the amazing thing, this boy's name is Samuel Armas. This boy's name is Samuel Armas. This boy's name is Samuel Armas. This is the same kid. You tell me, when did he become a patient? He was a patient from that moment of conception, created in the image of God, and he was a patient there, and a patient is a person, no matter how small. We like to give, I wish I had a toolbox for everybody, because this is what our goal is today. I want you to think that you walked in here with an empty toolbox, and my job is not to have a level 7 pro-life person to say, I got to hear Bill Lile for 45 minutes. I walked in a 7 and I walked out a 9. Well, that's good, but that didn't really change anything. It's like knowing the gospel. And then, man, I know the gospel. I know how God loved us and he sent his son and how to spend eternity in heaven. Well, what are you going to do when you walk out the door? You going to tell anybody? Nah. But I know it. Good. But that doesn't do anything. This is the good news. We're here today to put tools in your toolbox so you can walk out and you've got your tools in your toolbox. And all of a sudden you see a loose Phillips screw. You go, I have a Phillips screwdriver. Let me get my Phillips screwdriver and you can tighten up that screw on the inside. Delayed interval delivery is one of those tools. What's a delayed interval delivery? Happens with twins. We had a case in Pensacola. Mom was pregnant, 25 weeks pregnant, and she decides she's going to leave her home and she's going to drive to Pensacola because there was a concert, and she wanted to see Toby Mac. And Toby Mac was in concert down at the Pensacola Civic Center. So there she is, 25 weeks pregnant with identical twin boys, one egg, one sperm, fused together, new person in the image of God, and then before day 13, that divided into identical twins. So she's there swaying to the music and rap of Toby Mac. And all of a sudden, we have a baptism there on the front row of the Pensacola Civic Center because she broke her bag of water. She broke her bag of water. All that activity kind of put her in the preterm labor. EMS is going, oh, no. They put her in the gurney, and the gurney comes straight to our hospital just about 5 miles away. And we see her in our triage area. Before we can do anything, she delivers that first identical twin. Well, we have doctors. We have nurses. We just spent $70 million on our new pediatric hospital. That baby goes over to all the technology, doctors, nurses, and high-tech stuff, and that baby is being treated on the outside. Meanwhile, the second bag of water
and Mom was still intact. And we told the mom, we said, we have 2 NICUs. We have one with doctors, nurses, and technology. Then we have the one designed by God. And this really does a better job. As long as this NICU is a safe environment for the baby, we'd like to leave that baby in the inside. We'd like to give you some antibiotics. We'd like to give you some steroids. The steroids mature the baby's brain, mature the baby's lungs, and protect the baby's bowel. We don't just get hours, which would be cool. We don't just get days. There was a case up in Tennessee. They got 6 weeks. Baby A was born in June. Baby B was born in August. They're going to be in different school years as identical twins. The technology is amazing, but here's the key. The baby that's over in the NICU, the identical twin conceived from 1 egg and 1 sperm that then split into identical copies before day 13. This baby somehow has rights and protection, just as if you were in a cardiac care unit. Meanwhile, its identical twin who hung out on the inside 100 feet away, if Mom were to choose and said, I didn't want twins. I didn't want 2. We only wanted 1. She could legally, if she's in my home state of New Jersey, she's in Virginia, she's in New York, she's in Cali, she could legally go and abort that baby that just happens to be living inside of her still. How does an identical twin here have rights and protection, but it's identical to our geographic location does not give us our rights or deny us our rights? Big people do not have more rights than little people. Otherwise, some of us would be able to vote twice, because we're bigger than other people. That is not where first of all, our rights do not come from the government. Our rights come from God. It is the role and the duty of good government to protect those rights that are given to us by God. But that's a delayed interval delivery. It's just one of the tools that we want to put in your toolbox. Then when the opportunity comes, that you can use that tool to defend God's preborn in the womb. Who created life? Dads are, no, I got 4 kids, man. I did that. No, you didn't. It's like Barack Obama. You didn't do that. God created life, all right? God created life, and we look at Genesis 1:26, where God said, you can't see the stars right now because, there's a little bit of a cloud cover there. But tonight, if it clears up, just take a minute. Look at the stars. Look at that creation above you. And we read through in Genesis, remember that verse, and God created the heavens and the earth. Pause. What's pause like? Selah. Don't they pop a Selah at the end of some verses to stop and think about it? God created the heavens and the earth. Well, what does that mean? Well, it means that there are just in our galaxy 200 billion stars. And then it also means that how many galaxies are out there? As far as we know, at least 500 billion galaxies. That is a lot. To get to our closest star here in the Milky Way with our fastest Elon Musk spaceship, would it take a while to get to our closest star, Alpha Centauri? Yeah. You know how long it would take to get to our closest star? You figure Guardians of the Galaxy, they just hop in a ship and they can go zipping across the galaxy. To get to the closest star of 200 billion stars just in our galaxy, our closest star is 54,000 years away, just to get to star number 1. That is job security. If you're in charge of the navigation of that spaceship, you get that job in high school. You got it for a long time. You can retire from that job. But when we look at, and God created the heavens and the earth, and He created the heavens and the earth. He put some special time in on the earth. And then He created all the mammals, all the birds, all the fish, all the rivers, all the oceans, all the flat areas, all the mountainous areas. And after all that, you say, God's looking around going, y'all think that's impressive? That was nothing. None of that was created in my image. You love your dog, but your dog was not created in the image of God, I guarantee you. God stops and He pauses and He says, let us make man in our image after our likeness. It was not just Adam, it was not just Eve. We were all created at the image of God. Not when we were born. That doesn't make any sense. If I induced somebody on Monday, I had no power of when this person was going to be created in the image of God. If I decide, no, it's not going to be Monday, I'm going to be tired, I'm going to do it on Tuesday. I didn't have this power to create somebody in the image of God on Tuesday versus on Monday. What is abortion? And that's really the topic we're talking about. What is abortion? Why is it wrong? And how do we defend it and fight against it? You ever see somebody burn the American flag? Why? First, freedom of speech, man, I got a few words to say if they burn the American flag. What does that flag stand for? It is the flag that represents the image of the United States. If you hate the United States, what are you going to do? You're going to take on all of the United States? No, but you're going to attack the image of the United States. So if you hate the United States, you're going to burn the American flag. What is abortion when it gets down to its core and its basic foundation? Abortion is a hatred for God, and it is attack against the image of God. Are the babies in the image of God just because we so? No, God himself says, let us make man in our image. So if you hate God, you're going to want to destroy the image of God, which is the baby there on the inside of the womb. That's why this is not just a choice. That's why this is not just one science versus another science. This is a spiritual battle. This is why we need to hear the information coming from our pulpits. That's why you have a godly, bold pastor who wants you to have those tools that you can defend God's preborn and defend the image of God there on the inside. So what does science say? You said it so eloquently. God is the creator of all science. Science, true science, will always defend God's creation and God's preborn. So let's look at the science. Let's talk conception. We've got kids here, but we're going to talk the basics of conception. Ladies, y'all are super eloquent and super delicate, where when you ovulate, you just sort of go, make a little cyst on your ovary, and then an ovary makes a cyst, and it gets tighter, and it goes, boop, and one little egg comes out. And that egg gently gets picked up by the fallopian tubes who are bringing it in. And that little egg is traveling through the ampullary, and it's just so nice and delicate. Guys, nah. Y'all over here, you're dressed with blue war paint because this is more, like that Braveheart. Y'all are all dressed up, and do you have just one? No. Do you have 1 million? No. You got 200, 300 million swimmers on your side, and they're all lining up, and they're ready for this race, and they're going to say, I'm going over there. And then the gun goes off, and they all start. And it's a man, what's your name? Man? I'm Michael Phelps. What's your name? Man, I'm Mark Spitz. They all think they're gold medalists, and they start swimming, and they start swimming. They get up into the inside of the uterus now, and they got a choice. Do I go to the left tube? Do I go to the right tube? We don't ask directions, do we? No. So half of them are going to go to the wrong tube, and they'll go, there's no egg here. And the other guys, well, we got an egg over here, And so they get there, and then one reaches out, and he touches that little egg on the outside. Did that win the gold medal? No, because this is Ninja Warrior. This is a real competition. This is Spartan time, where it's not just a matter of getting to the end. You've got to get inside of the egg. So now you have thousands of these cells from the dad who are all trying to get into the inside, and they're using acrosomes and enzymes, and they're trying to bury themselves to the inside. And then once that first one gets in, he goes, I'm the gold medalist, I made it to the inside. And another one's saying, man, I want to get silver, And God goes, There is no silver medalist, there is no bronze medalist. All 300 million of you are losers. Go home. We've got our gold medalist already here. Well, how do you just tell them all to go home? God took care of that. What did he do? As soon as that first cell gets on the inside of the egg, there is a shield. A Star Trek, the Klingons are here, shield that goes up around the egg. It's called a zona pellucida. And the zona pellucida says, no mas, nobody else gets in here. There's only a gold medalist. Everybody else goes home. Well, when that shield goes up, there is all sorts of chemical reactions that are happening. There are zinc ions, there are potassium ions, there are calcium ions in and out, and they're flowing. And when you look at that moment of conception with the right frequency of light in mammals, you can actually see a flash of light. And this is what happens. This is a petri dish with a bunch of mammalian cells. Do you see that, those flashes? That's what's happening at the moment of conception. So when some people say, well, nobody really knows when life begins. My goodness, you got a flash of light that's going on. Of course you know when the life began. That is the moment of conception. That is when we are created in the image of God. That is when we are a patient. That is when we are an individual person. From that moment of conception, that baby is different from mom, different from dad, different from the other 8 billion people on the planet from that first cell. But we're not just one cell, are we? No. Y'all are sitting here about 50, 60 trillion cells. Well, to go from 1 to 60 trillion, you've got to do some division. We've got to get some cell division. So we go from 1, then a few hours later, we divide into 2. And then a few hours later, then we go into 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, and we keep dividing. But then all of a sudden, one cell says, you know what? I'm an exact copy of you, and you are an exact copy of me. I don't want to be just like you two. I'm going to start something different. I'm going to look through all the DNA in this one group of chromosomes that I have in this cell, and I'm going to start the entire circulatory system. And then this cell says, you're going to start the entire circulatory system, the heart and the blood vessels, and the arteries and the veins? Man, I want to do something different too. I want to start the entire neurologic system. I'm going to read only the plans for the brain and the nerves. And another one says, well, man, I'm kind of like a structural guy. I'm kind of like a framer. I'm going to do all the skeletal system. Another one says, well, I'm kind of a mechanical engineer. I want to do all the muscles. How do individual cells that all have the exact same complement of DNA, 23 pairs of chromosomes, know that I'm only going to read these pages of my blueprints, and I'm only going to read these pages of the blueprints? Science can tell you what happened today, what's going to happen tomorrow, what's going to happen the next day. Do we have any idea how individual cells know what pages in the blueprints that they're going to do? Not a clue. It's called cell differentiation, and it is because we have a miracle creator. If you see that kind of design, there was a designer. And if you see that kind of architecture, there was an architect. That doesn't just happen by chance. When it comes to visualization, we use the tools of modern obstetrics to let people know what is going on the inside. Ultrasound is an amazing tool. A urine test that has one line versus two lines doesn't tell you the story at all. So we use the tools of modern ultrasound. But the tools have changed. This is a picture of my daughter when this was 25 years ago. She is 12 weeks along. She's only 2 inches from her head to her bottom. Y'all are getting some inside family information. That's my wife's wall of her uterus right there. All right, so less wave. But there's no Bluetooth, no Wi-Fi, no smartphones. So what do you do to entertain yourself? You got a little sliding board like y'all have out in the playground. So you jump and if we kept watching, we had Mexican food. Sydney actually gets the hiccups. And when you're only this big and you're floating around, you have a hiccup, your whole body just moves around. But that's my daughter. She is still in the first trimester, and she could be aborted at any state that allows first trimester abortion. But she is created in the image of God, and that was 25 years ago. Now look at what ultrasound images are. Cute kid, huh? Cute kid, huh? Same child. Guess what? This is on the outside. This is a month before on the inside. If this child likes to have its right hand up by its face while it's on the inside, it's going to continue with what's comfortable to them. Moms, you know, the personality of your baby on the inside, if you're 38 weeks and this is a wild child from 1 a.m. to 4 a.m., and you think, I'm going to have this baby so that we can correct this and I can get some sleep. No, if you had a wild child from 1 a.m. to 4 a.m. on the inside, you're going to have a wild child from 1 a.m. to 4 a.m. on the outside as well. Their personalities don't change just because the time changed. But now we have MRIs, and there's a quick image. This is imaging. MRI is great because it has no radiation, kind of like ultrasound. If you want, there are now places in strip malls where instead of having Olin Mills where you'd get together with your family and say, all right, lift up this knee, turn your head to the left, lift your chin up, and now smile. Act natural, you know. Well, now they've replaced them with places like Peekaboo and Show Me. You have strip mall ultrasounds where you can go in and you can look at your baby and get portraits. Now we also have MRI. I want you to see this imaging. This is a baby on the inside, and the story I heard was that while they were doing the ultrasound, there was a ball game going on, and they started playing the national anthem. So while this MRI is being done, the national anthem is playing. Oh, say, can you see? And this is not a basketball player that got, arrested in Russia because she was taking marijuana over on the inside. This is a child that says, I will not sit, I will not kneel for the national anthem. As God is my witness, I will push up, I will stretch my knees, and I will stand for the national anthem. That's not a blob of tissue. I saw y'all. Y'all were like, come on, push, you can do it. Kind of like if you're on your Peloton, Sally's yelling at you can do it, You're all cheering for this baby on the inside. That is who we are trying to defend. This is a patient created in the image of God, a new person from that moment of conception. And we've seen the placards, we've seen the signs. It's my body, it's my choice. It's not. Let's just talk basic science. Half the time, your baby on the inside is a little boy. How can that be if it's part of your body? You can have different blood types. They are genetically unique from mom, dad, 8 billion people. Your body is an amazing life support system. Well, does that support for a baby go away once the baby is born? When the baby is born, it comes on out. It's like, okay, let me get on Amazon Prime and let me order myself some formula, if there's any formula available. No, that baby is still just as dependent on the outside as that baby was on the inside for somebody to meet the support and care for the needs of that baby. So your body is an amazing life support system, but that baby is completely different. Anybody ever been to a baby shower? I mean, they're fun. I mean, they're weird, but they're fun, And a baby shower is towards the end of the pregnancy. And at the end of the pregnancy, you are having a party to provide the things that the mom is going to need. Maybe it's formula, maybe it's diapers, and you think, oh, I've got plenty of diapers. You don't have it's going to get you through the first 3 weeks, But diapers and burp cloths and outfits, that's a baby shower. The fastest growing form of party here in the United States is now the gender reveal party. Is it celebrating something that's going to happen? No. It is celebrating what has happened and what is going on now, because we are celebrating not the birth of this baby. We are celebrating that this baby is not going to be a boy. This baby is a boy. Or we are celebrating that this baby is not going to be a girl. This baby is a girl. That is a gender reveal party. And it used to be ultrasound. You'd have to wait till 18, 20 weeks to be able to look and see, do I see boy parts or do I see girl parts? And guess what? There is nothing else. It is either boy parts or it is girl parts. So don't listen to what they say that there's 32. I've been there. There are not 32 different genders. It is boys and it is girls. Male and female created he, them. But now we can have gender reveal parties a lot earlier. We can do a routine blood test on a pregnant mom 7 weeks after conception, just with a blood test from her arm, and with 99% accuracy, I can tell you if that baby is a boy or is a girl. How? With a test called cell-free DNA. One of the brand names is Panorama, because baby's here on the inside, and baby's blood doesn't cross, but these little fragments of pieces of DNA we have always known can cross from the baby through the placenta, through the umbilical cord, into mom's circulation. And we knew there were always fragments of DNA, and we knew that about 95% of those fragments were from the mom, and about 5% of those fragments were from the baby. And it's like, if I said, brother, man, I got a sugar bowl, and I just threw a pinch of salt, and I didn't mean to throw the salt in there. Just take a few minutes and go through the sugar bowl and try to get all that salt out, because I don't want salt in my sugar bowl. And you'd be like, I'm going on vacation. I got better things to do. I'm going to Miami, Well, that's what we can do now with science. We can actually take the 95% of the mom's DNA fragments over here, and then we can separate out the 5% of the baby's DNA fragments, and we can tell you that is a boy or a girl on the inside by studying those little fragments. Because this is science, and science is always going to defend God's preborn. The science is not bad. It's what people do with science that is evil. It's like guns, not bad. It's how the gun is used that can be evil. When it comes to cell-free DNA, what happens when somebody delivers their baby? What happens when somebody has an abortion? Do you know if you have an abortion or you deliver that baby and you do that same blood test, 2 hours later, you can't find that baby's DNA. Little baby Elvis has left the building. Elvis has left the building, and you can't even find if there was a trace of Elvis there on the inside or not. And that is called cell-free DNA. I'm from Florida. We got a narcotics problem. Careful in Miami, it's all over the place. But we have a narcotics problem. I know here in Indiana and even in Indianapolis, there is no narcotic issue, right? None whatsoever. No, it's a problem all over the country. In fact, for the first time ever, we had over 100,000 people that died of a drug overdose here in the United States. The majority of those overdose deaths were from narcotics, and the number one narcotic was fentanyl. Why do I put a heart up there? You know how long it takes for 100,000 babies to be aborted from January? When you think of a holiday and you see a heart, what do you think of? You think of Valentine's Day. So it's horrible that we've had 100,000 people die of overdoses here in the United States, but guess what? Only took us till February 14th to have 100,000 babies aborted here in the United States in the same year. So, does everybody who takes too much narcotic die? No. In fact, we can give them the antidote, and that antidote is Narcan. But there's another poison that's going across the United States, and that's the abortion pill. And it's very different from the morning after pill. Let's define it. Words matter. Morning after pill. It's indicated for, come with me, the morning after. The abortion pill, how is that different? The abortion pill is not the morning after pill. It is the 70 morning after pill. It is indicated for 10 weeks. It is 98% effective in killing a baby in the womb up to 10 weeks gestation. Prior to COVID, 39% of all the abortions in the United States were with the abortion pill. Now, the most recent data says 54%. There are countries in the European Union where 85% of all the abortions are performed with the abortion pill. But just like an antidote for narcotic overdoses, do we have an antidote for the abortion pill? Yeah. Well, how does it work? Well, first, when a woman gets pregnant, there's a huge celebration going on in the body. Guys, did you notice any changes in your wife when she was pregnant? Any at all? Yeah, because there was a new coach, there was a new, director of the orchestra, a new conductor, and that conductor is called progesterone. Progestational steroid hormone. This is the hormone that says, we got a new full-time job. We're going to support the baby uterus. You're going to relax. You're going to get bigger cervix. You're going to do your job. We're going to devote more blood supply and more nutrition to the baby. That is the role of progesterone. The abortion pill blocks that hormone progesterone. And then the level of hormone progesterone in the woman's body starts to plummet. Well, when a woman realizes she made a mistake and she had regrets, we just supplement and reverse and we bring that hormone level up. We use the same medication all the time in normal obstetrics. If somebody got pregnant, had a miscarriage, got pregnant, had a miscarriage, she has what's called a luteal phase defect where her body is not making enough. Just like somebody who's a diabetic. They're diabetic and their sugars are 400 because their body is not making enough insulin. So what do? We give them insulin. When a woman has taken a medication which has lowered progesterone levels, we just give her supplemental progesterone to bring it back up. We use it to prevent miscarriage. We use it to prevent preterm labor. All of our patients that are triplets and quadruplets, we give them progesterone to keep the pregnancy going. So what do? If the progesterone levels are low, we just supplement those progesterone levels. And we have a network through the abortionpillreversal.com or abortionpillrescue.com. There's the toll-free number at the top. We've trained 500 doctors, and it's available all across the country. Here's the spiritual lesson. We had this baby. Mom had taken the abortion pill, and 98% chance this baby was going to die. My wife and I pay for all the reversals that we're involved with. We spend $109 for the medication, and we buy back the life of that baby. This is the first successful abortion, one of the first reversals I was participated in. We just had another successful reversal that I delivered 3 days ago. Look at the spiritual lesson. 100% of us were heading towards eternal death and separation from God. Yet, did we get bought back with $109 worth of prometrium? No. We were bought back, and what's the spiritual word for being bought back? We were redeemed, not with $109 worth of prometrium. We were redeemed with the blood of Jesus Christ. And that is the spiritual lesson. So we are redeeming the lives of these babies on the inside, just like we've been redeemed through the blood of Jesus Christ. When it comes to, is this just a choice? And is that all we're doing? Are we looking at coffee? You had coffee and tea up there in the front. Is it a choice, or are we engaged in the greatest spiritual battle in our lives? This is a spiritual battle, just like we talked about with the American flag being burned. When it comes to the preborn, Jeremiah 1:5, God saying to Jeremiah, before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you came as forth out, I sanctified you, I set you apart, and I ordained thee to be a prophet unto the nations. God knew Jeremiah, God knew every one of you, and he had a role for you to play in kingdom service. Psalm 139:14, we talked about cell differentiation and all those changes. Psalmist didn't understand cell differentiation. What did he say? Man, there was a night of romance, and 9 months later a baby came out. You formed my inmost being. You knit me in my mother's womb. I praise you. You so wonderfully made me. But look at this next spiritual lesson. Romans 5:8, but God demonstrates his own love for us in this. While we were still sinners, Jesus died for us. I mean, besides my wife and I, any sinners? I mean, anybody here? Not a single hand. No sinners here. We're amongst holiness here. There we go. We got a double hand. God loved us all, and he sent his son. He lived a perfect life. He gave his life for us on the cross, and he was dead, not just merely dead, really most sincerely dead for 3 days, conquered death, and he rose again. If we can put our trust in him, we can spend eternal life in the presence of God. But look at this, Psalm 51:5. Surely I was sinful at birth. I was sinful from the time my mother conceived me. So we're not just born sinners, we're sinners from the moment of conception. So if God would love the preborn enough that he sent his son to die and then conquer death, should we at least do our best that we can to defend those that are preborn and still in the womb? Absolutely. Pensacola Beach, they have big signs defending preborn sea turtles. You can spend a year in jail and be fined $100,000 for disturbing preborn sea turtles. But you cross the 3-mile bridge and you go into Pensacola, you don't have that same protection for a baby in the womb. But we do for sea turtles. So we're here to give you guys new tools to put in your toolbox so that you can defend God's preborn. Because remember, Mordecai, here's my best Jewish, I grew up in Cherry Hill. This is Mordecai talking when Esther's saying, why am I here? What is my role? Mordecai says to Esther, but that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this. When you look at the role that the church can play, I really feel that now that we've been blessed with the reversal of Roe versus Wade, the future of our country and what this country will be for the next generation is going to revolve around what did we do with this opportunity for the reversal of Roe versus Wade. That's why this church needs to be engaged in this issue, because God has said, here you go, what are you going to do with it? Well, there we are. That's kind of like when you go to the mall, where am I? Well, we're right there. And can we win? The God who created all this and all that behind it not only hears our prayers, but answers our individual prayers. And we're wondering if we can win this battle of abortion. My goodness, of course we can win this battle. We just have to be faithful and follow the leading of our Lord. So what's the answer? Well, we're going to do a lot of things. We're going to get involved with our local pregnancy center. We're going to be voices for the voiceless. We're going to defend the defenseless. We're going to take a stand like that little baby on the MRI stood up on the inside. But what's the real answer? The real answer is going to be the gospel. It's the gospel that changes hearts. It's the gospel that changes minds. It's the gospel that changes behavior. If we're going to win this spiritual battle, are we going to win it with science? No, we're going to win it with the gospel. And that is where we need to be. Free medical advice. Someday all of y'all are going to die. Unless Jesus tarries, Jesus comes sooner, you're all going to die. And you're going to get there, and if you're saved, you're going to be there. And I am here in the presence of my Lord forever and ever and ever. You're going to be down on your knees. You're going to be going, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I can't believe I'm here forever with you. But then you're going to think about, what did I do for kingdom service to serve the kingdom while I was here on earth? What did I do? What did I not do? And there are only a few words that we want to hear when we're looking back on how we served the kingdom here. We want to hear while we're on our knees and just saying, thank you, thank you, thank you. We want to see Jesus get down, lift us up by our chin, look us in the eye and say, well done, thou good and faithful servant. God bless you all, and thank you for the hospitality.